Coming up on AC 24/7, we take a look at the race that could determine the balance of power, a closer look at the Georgia Senate race. Plus, it was a fashion stunt that led to the downfall of Kanye West. We'll tell you why he could never profit from the White Lives Matter t-shirts. And more than 100 years later, the search continues for the victims of the Tulsa race massacre, the mass graves recently uncovered. Welcome to AC 24/7. I'm Stephen Walker. The Georgia Senate race could help determine the balance of power in the Senate. Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock and Republican candidate Herschel Walker are in a virtual tie. The Advocate Channel's Eva McKend has more from Atlanta.
God will fight my battle.
In Georgia this year, a fierce matchup between a longtime pastor
It's the Lord's.
and a former football great,
Herschel Walker.
vying for a seat that could determine control of the U.S. Senate.
We have come to rejoice.
Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock, the senior pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, won a special election in January 2021 that helped deliver the Senate majority to Democrats.
Raphael Warnock and Ted Cruz?
As he seeks a full 6-year term, Warnock is touting his bipartisan credentials.
I'll work with anyone if it means helping Georgia.
A Heisman Trophy winner and political newcomer, Republican Herschel Walker is leaning on his biography.
He has achieved mighty things.
For the first time in the state's history, 2 black men are facing off as major party nominees for the Senate. With less than a week until the votes are counted, the polls show a tight race. If no candidate gets more than 50% of the vote next week, the race will head to a December runoff.
The people of Georgia deserve to see that choice because in this case it's stark and deeply consequential.
Walker, who is running with the endorsement of former President Donald Trump, has sought to tie Warnock to the current president, Joe Biden, who narrowly won Georgia in 2020. 2 years later, his standing in the state has sunk amid concerns about the economy and high inflation.
The thing they're doing to this economy is it not right.
Instead of bringing in Biden, Warnock leaning on a former Democratic president, Barack Obama, to help energize voters and make the case against Walker.
Seems to me he's a celebrity who wants to be a politician.
In the closing weeks of the campaign, the contest was rocked by reports Walker, who is staunchly opposed to abortion rights, pressured 2 women to have abortions. CNN has not independently confirmed those allegations.
I've already told people this is a lie and I'm not going to entertain to continue to carry a lie alone.
For his part, Warnock has largely avoided directly attacking Walker over the reports.
Abortion allegations.
Instead, trying to raise questions about his GOP rival's character.
We will see time and time again that my opponent has a problem with the truth.
With the Senate potentially at stake, Republican leaders and voters have rallied behind Walker. Are you concerned about the abortion allegations at all?
No, because, everyone makes a mistake.
Pre-election voting is on pace to surpass 2018 in the 36 states where that information is available, according to the tracking company Catalyst. 2 black radio hosts in Arizona could block Kanye West from ever trying to sell his White Lives Matter t-shirts in the US. Ramsey Jar and Quinton Ward are the hosts of a weekly racial justice radio show, Civic Cypher. They became the legal owners of the phrase Trademark for its use on clothing late last month. The hosts consider owning the trademark a responsibility that including making it sure it doesn't end up in the wrong hands. They didn't want anyone to potentially profit off it. Kanye West wore a shirt with the phrase alongside Candace Owens during an event held in Paris Fashion Week. The city of Tulsa has uncovered another 24 unmarked graves that could be linked to the 1921 Tulsa race massacre. The city of Tulsa resumes searching for and exhuming the unmarked graves on October 26th. The city is working to get an accurate count of how many people were killed when a white mob attacked black neighborhoods in Tulsa, destroying what was known as Black Wall Street. Historians believe more than 300 victims were killed and buried in a series of unmarked mass graves. The owners of the Washington Commanders football team may be looking to sell. This comes months after the House Oversight Committee found evidence of a toxic work environment. The Advocate Channel's Tom Foreman has more.
A potential billion-dollar sale in the NFL. Washington Commanders owner Dan Snyder signaling he is open to sell the NFL team Forbes estimates to be worth $5.6 billion. Snyder bought the team in 1999 for $750 million, according to Forbes. It's unclear if Snyder is exploring selling the entire franchise or just a share, and any transaction would require the approval of 3/4 of NFL team owners, according to the Washington Post. It's been a turbulent 2 years for Snyder. The embattled owner has faced accusations he hired private investigators to look into his NFL counterparts and Commissioner Roger Goodell. Snyder denies these allegations. The NFL and House Oversight Committee investigated Snyder for fostering a toxic workplace environment after multiple accusations of workplace improprieties.
You're aware that in 2009, Dan Snyder was accused of sexually assaulting an employee on a private airplane, correct?
Am I aware of that? Yes, I'm aware of that allegation.
That employee was fired, but Snyder and the team settled with the accuser for $1.6 million. Initially, Snyder refused to appear, but later did sit for a deposition. The committee concluded Snyder conducted a shadow investigation to target his accusers, pin the blame on others, and influence the NFL's own internal review. Snyder has denied those accusations, too.
It shows the links Mr. Snyder went to harass, intimidate, and silence his accusers.
The NFL, for its part, did find fault with Snyder at the conclusion of its own internal review, which resulted in Snyder handing daily control over to his wife.
We imposed unprecedented discipline on the club. Monetary penalties of well over $10 million.
In a statement, the team said the Washington Commanders have fully cooperated with federal and state investigators.
The nation's unemployment rate is sitting at 3.5%, the lowest level in the last half-century, and the demand for workers is still strong. There are currently more than 10.5 million open jobs, but most Americans are still having issues finding a job that best suits them. The Advocate Channel's Vanessa Yurkovich tells us why.
I'm open to all options.
Carly Pavlinac is on stage in a high-stakes competition. The potential prize, a new job.
How do you make sure you're working with the right talent, you're finding the right connections?
The biggest thing is just being able to communicate the idea.
This is not the first time Pavlinac has done something unconventional to land an interview since losing her marketing job in September. After she didn't hear back for a position at Nike, she sent them a cake with her resume on it.
I've been applying. Obviously, that hasn't worked yet, so let me throw something new in the mix and see if that, works.
Her resume cake making headlines.
I've since talked to a bunch of people at Nike, but still no job.
But the economic data tells a different story. The jobs market is strong. There are 10.7 million open positions, labor shortages, and hundreds of thousands of jobs being added each month. Yet some job seekers, even with a viral cake moment, can't seem to land one.
On the surface, it's still fairly strong labor market, but if you go a couple of layers under, you are starting to see more significant cracks in the surface that suggest we should eventually see it in those more popular headline type labor market readings.
Cracks like a slowdown in hiring, as seen in this week's job openings survey. Hires dropping to 6.1 million, the lowest since February 2021. And the tech industry is shedding jobs 86% more than last year.
My perception of the job market was there were a ton of jobs out there, and it was going to be easy to find a job, and that actually hasn't been the case.
Another crack of the 10.7 million open jobs, some companies might be advertising positions they aren't actively trying to fill.
I have applied to many jobs that they're still sitting there. That's been a giant question in my head.
It's called pipelining talent. Companies post jobs to develop a pool of candidates. Recruiter Laura Mazzullo says she sees companies do it all the time.
Candidates don't know that's what's happening. So they're being pipelined when actually they think they're applying for an active job. And this is where we're seeing a bit of a disconnect.
That may mean as the labor market weakens, job seekers can't be as picky.
Our goal is potentially to give away 2 jobs tonight.
I have been picky in that sense of where I want to work, but I know what I want. I'm still searching, still talking to people. I've come to terms that it is taking longer than I thought.
And of the jobs added last month, most were low-paying positions. Food services added 215,000 jobs with an hourly wage of $13, while finance and insurance lost 83,000 jobs, paying on average $36 an hour. An alarming new report about our planet's climate crisis. A UN group finding a third of the planet's most iconic glaciers, including at two of the most visited and most beloved national parks here in the US, are on the track to disappear in the next 30 years. The Advocate Channel's Renee Marsh has more.
Some of the world's most renowned glaciers are on track to disappear in the next 30 years, whether global warming is slowed or not. A sobering finding from United Nations researchers based on satellite data. Among the glaciers on the brink of vanishing are those in two of the most visited U.S. national parks, Yosemite and Yellowstone. Repeat photography documents the vanishing glaciers through time.
Glaciers are one of the most valuable indicators of climate change because they are visible. We can see with our eyes the retreat of a glacier.
The report finds that 1/3 of the planet's glaciers identified by the United Nations as locations of significance are set to disappear, and scientists warn the impact will be felt a world away.
Glaciers' retreat is contributing to about 5% of global sea level rise. The impacts of this melting can be seen in our daily lives through, for instance, floods, as well as coastal erosion and even tsunamis.
Glacier melt was believed to have contributed to 2 catastrophic floods this summer. At Yellowstone National Park, torrential rain and abnormally warm temperatures caused a wave of snowmelt that produced a foot of runoff and dangerous flooding. And in Pakistan, intense monsoon rainfall coupled with glacial melt following extreme heat in the region triggered deadly flooding.
Thank you for joining us for AC 24/7. For content that advocates for you, go to advocatechannel.com, follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, and subscribe on YouTube. For the Advocate Channel, I'm Stephen Walker.